uh, and inviting satanic assault story. I'm using them as like a testimony or a witness. And it might sound kind of funny. It's like, that's how's that gonna, you know, tell us about Jesus? But I'm not the only one that had to walk through the darkness to step into the light, and I won't be the last. So it actually makes sense. I didn't know I was inviting satanic assault. I just thought I was partying and getting high and having fun, if you want to call it that. But that's what inviting satanic assault is sin. I'd gotten out of prison maybe like, it wasn't quite a year ago. It was like 9 months before then. And I'd quit my job that I had doing refurbishing rental properties for the slumlord, because it was really hard work and it was kind of dangerous, because I was going to these various barrios in LA in the valley, and they weren't my hood. Okay, I was like the stranger in town. I was going to get caught slipping. Basically, it's kind of dangerous to be hanging out in these areas. And I was kind of a knucklehead too. I wouldn't back down, so I was having some run-ins, and it was really hard work. And I eventually quit. But before I went to prison, I'd had a girlfriend. Okay, yeah, I had a girlfriend, and she loved me, and I loved her. And after I got out of prison, I was kind of like trying to get in touch with her. I knew where her parents lived, and so I went by her parents one time and knocked on the door. "Where's Alana?" And they're like, "Get out of here! Don't come back. You got her in trouble, and she didn't want to see you." But I didn't hear her say that. You know, I didn't see her, so I was kind of like hanging around the neighborhood where her parents lived to see if I could see her, because I knew she'd go by there and see them all the time. Wasn't stalking her per se, but I wanted to talk to her, see if I couldn't get back together with her. I loved her. And eventually I caught her driving down the street away from her parents' house. And I ran up to the door of her car and, "Hey, come on, talk to me. I love you." And she didn't say anything. She just looked at me. I know she recognized me. And she had like a look like, I love you too, but I'm done. And she drove away. And I could take a hint. That was it. I never went back around looking for her again. But before this happened, I'd gone to this cab company she used to work for. When I met her, she was working for this cab company. And when we were together, she was working for this cab company as an order taker and dispatcher. So during the process of me looking for her, I went there and applied for a job, hoping that she was still working there. She wasn't. But I got a job there. It was interesting. It was okay money. But the thing was, it's a lot of organized crime. It was treacherous business. There was a lot of prostitution. A lot of these cab drivers were delivering prostitutes to Johns to pull tricks. They just drive around all night. They weren't even accepting fares. They were just pimps, okay? And then there's a lot of drug deliveries going on. A lot, And another thing is that we'd have all the cabs in a lineup. You're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3, you're number 50, And as the orders came in, we'd give the next person in the lineup the order. But here's the thing, once in a while, quite often actually, someone would call up and go, "Hey, how much would it cost me to go to San Diego and back?" "Whoa, that's like $250 there and $250 back." "Okay, send the cab." We'd even get calls to like, "Hey, how much does it cost to go to Las Vegas?" "Well, that's $800, $900. And here's the thing: we wouldn't put we had the order takers were instructed, come to the dispatcher and let them know if you get a call like that, and we wouldn't put those in the lineup. We do it under the table. What we do is, there were no cell phones back then, so we'd call the cab drivers that were our friends that were in on the take basically. On their pagers. I don't know if you guys know beepers or pagers, they had them back in the day. And then they'd call, there was a cell phone, a payphone. And they'd call the payphone and we'd say, "Hey, there's this fare over on this address. He wants a ride to San Diego or Las Vegas or Ventura. Go pick him up." And we'd get kickbacks for doing it, because these guys that were in on it were getting all the best fares. Totally illegal, by the way. All this stuff I'm describing is completely illegal. And there was the federal agents from the Department of Transportation were investigating all these cab companies. undercover, and they're, posing as fares and tricks and people that wanted to buy drugs, and they call up. So it was a headache, man. I was having run-ins with federal agents and like almost getting into fights with them, and pimps and drug dealers, and I wasn't getting paid enough for that. So I got tired of it after a while. I was hanging out with this pretty fun crew, my friends. And there was this one guy in the circle that was a repo man named Al. He was one of the best repo men. He was the best repo man in Los Angeles, okay? And he'd cycled through all the homies to be his assistant. Called them his drivers. And eventually, it was my turn. He called me up one time and went, "Hey, listen, I don't have a driver right now. You want to be my driver?" I'm like, "Yeah, it sounds like fun. Good money." And so I started being his driver. At first, I was working for him at night, and I'd go back to the cab company in the daytime and I was trying to do that, but it was just, I was on drugs, okay? I was doing speed, staying up for days. But he's like, "Dude, I need access to you 24 hours because I need you to help me do deliveries to the auction yards in the daytime and repo at night." So I quit the cab company. It served its purpose. My girlfriend wasn't working there anyway, so I was like, fuck this place. He had a nice condo in Sherman Oaks on Sepulveda Boulevard. But his dad had died and left him a house in South Central. It was a pretty rough neighborhood, but it was a really nice house. The street was kind of a nice street in the middle of the ghetto. It was a really nice house. And he let me house sit. I was living in his house. Electricity, gas, water. It was a big 3-bedroom house, too. Backyard, front yard, it's nice. It was all mine. I was there by myself. And so we'd repo for 3, 4, 5 days straight, staying up on speed. And then he'd drop me off at his house. And I'd crash out for 3 days, and he'd go to his condo and crash out. One time, we were taking a break from repoing, but I was at his condo. And his next door neighbor in the condo next to him was a cocaine dealer. She wasn't a big cocaine dealer. She wasn't moving that much weight, but she was flipping ounces a week, many ounces. But the guy she was renting the condo from was one of the biggest cocaine dealers in Los Angeles. He didn't even live there. He lived in Atlanta and had a limousine company. That was his money laundering scheme to launder his drug money. But he was flipping keys out of Colombia. Really, really good stuff. And we were buying it from her. She'd give us an 8-ball for $80. Sometimes we didn't have 80. She'd give us to it for what we had. Well, we got us 50. Okay. And it was really good stuff off the brick. And we were rocking it up in water with baking soda in the microwave. She eventually died. Took a hit and it gave her a heart attack. She died, but this hadn't happened yet. And me and Al are in there smoking rock at his condo one night. All of a sudden, I hear him start freaking out. "Oh God, I can't breathe. I'm having a heart attack. Oh, God." And I look over at him, and he's like, "Stop breathing." I run over there. I'm giving this ugly motherfucker mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to keep him from dying, okay? He's like, I get him to breathing again, and "Please call an ambulance. Call 911. So I call 911. His house looked really sketchy. We had access to the property rooms at the repo company. If the people we repo, there's all kinds of stuff in those cars. And we just outright steal stuff. There's guns, we take them. If there's drugs, we take them. If there's anything we really like, sunglasses or a nice lighter, pair of tennis shoes that fit, we just take them. And the rest of the stuff we put in the property room. If they didn't come pick it up in 90 days, that was forfeit. And the people that owned the repo company, they didn't want to deal with it. They're just like, it's 90 days has gone by. We could just take anything that had been there over 90 days. So his condo looked like a pawn shop. And listen, guys, we were riding around in a tow truck full of burglary equipment. And the skills and the tools that we were using to repo those skills and tools could be transferred into theft, criminal activity. I'm not saying we were doing that, but I'm not saying we weren't. His condo was packed. It was like floor to ceiling. You could barely walk through the place for all the merchandise that was in his condo. I dragged the pot plant out of the condo down the hallway and hid it in the sauna. Tried to sweep up all the pot leaves. Finally, they showed up and they're looking around the place just tripping. Like, whoa, look at this place. What's going on around here? Where'd you get all this stuff? We're repo men, man. This is stuff from the property room. People don't pick it up and it's forfeit. We We take it out of the property room. They're like, oh, yeah, right. But anyway, they take him off. I just watched my friend almost die on cocaine. And guess what I did? I went right back in the bathroom, loaded up a big old hit of rock on the pipe, and took a big blast. And guess what happened? I almost stopped breathing. I felt like I was about to have a heart attack. My lungs almost froze on me. And I'm like, oh, struggling for breath. And all of a sudden, demons started just oozing out of the ceiling and the walls and rising out of the floor. Dozens of them. Roaring and screaming and laughing. And I'm freaking out. Oh, my God. I grab a baseball bat and I'm swinging it around. Get away from me! Stay back! The sliding glass door to the balcony was open. I just ran. It's on the first floor, but I just ran out to the balcony, jumped over out into the yard, and started running across the yard, ran across the street, ran through the parking lot of the grocery store that was across the street. And there's demons everywhere, like gargoyles and dragons and werewolves and vampires and demons, okay? Monsters. And they're kind of chasing me, but they're kind of not. They're just everywhere, okay? And I run across the parking lot, I run across Sepulveda Boulevard, and there's this line of like restaurants and little shops and nail shops and, lawyers' offices or whatever. And I get into this alcove of a restaurant and get my back up against the glass door and sitting there watching these demons stalking around, thousands of them, as far as I could see, just all over the place, the parking lot, out in the street. Oh my God. And they're laughing at me, and all of a sudden they're like laughing. Look behind you, asshole. I'm like, what do you mean, look behind me? I don't know, one of them told me that. And I turn around, and it's a glass door, and it's pitch black in the restaurant. It's just an abyss behind me. But way back in the distance, I guess, I saw a red dot. And it started growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, it got to where it filled my whole vision. It was a lake of fire. Oh, it was a ball of fire, like a sun, like a red sun. But it wasn't just fire. It was human beings, women and men and demons, all fighting amongst themselves in the flames. Some of them would like fight their way to the top of the pile and try to jump out of the flames and like fly off, and they just get pulled back down in by gravity, I guess, or like a tractor beam, and drag back down into the pile and disappear back into the flames. And another one would struggle to the top. And it was just billions of them. And I suddenly realized it's not getting bigger. I'm falling into this lake of fire, okay? And when I realized that I was about to be in that pile with those creatures and those people, I just spun around and started running for my life. There are demons everywhere. I'm just pounding the bat on the ground. Get away from me! Get away from me! Running across the parking lot. I don't know where I'm going to go. All of a sudden, a taxi cab pulls up. And Al jumps out. Hey, Jeff! And all of a sudden, everything went away. The demons went away. It was just the street out in the middle of the night. He's like, you're trying to scare off those demons with that baseball bat. And I'm like, how'd you know? He's like, you think I didn't see them too? And they're all over the condo when I was dying. I'm like, yeah, I saw them. He's like, yeah, me too. Whoa. We go back in his condo, and he's like, oh, man, I'm never going to smoke that rock again. I love it, but I'll never do it again. I'm scared. I almost died. And anyway, they gave me some kind of drug or something that brought me down from it, and even thinking about smoking it makes me want to puke, so you can have the rest. And guess what I did? I spent the rest of the night after all that and smoked the rest of that rock. I didn't load up as big a hit, so I was trying to be cautious. I smoked all the rest of that rock. That's how deceived Satan makes you, that I would sit there and continue taking that. I will say this much. I never did it again. After that last hit was gone, I never smoked rock again. Of course, I was partying on everything else. It took me years and years to finally see the light. I'd walked through the darkness for years before I finally saw the light. But I hope you guys get something out of that. A cautionary tale, or my testimony of how I basically almost died and went to hell over and over again until I finally woke up and went, said so long to sin as best I could, and pretty good, actually, and started walking with the Lord.